Okay, so let's get to these questions. As usual, I need to make it bigger so people can actually read it. So hopefully that's not going to be too small. So for our first question, half first cousin surprise. Hello. Last week I looked at matches on MyHeritage. I've tested on Ancestry and 23andMe and MyHeritage. And there was a half first cousin, which meant a grandfather had fathered this person's parent. I checked matches that we shared and saw that this person came through my mother's father. I sent a message, no response. I sent a more informative message, no response. I waited several days and sent a third message with even more information, and so far, no response. I was impatient and decided to Google this person and check on Facebook, and there it was. And there was a brother that I also looked at because the person would also have been a half first cousin. And there on his page was a photo of his father, who would have been my mother and aunt's half brother that they never knew about. So poster's half uncle, presumably. The photo was labeled my 94-year-old father. So I did the math and saw that my grandfather would have fathered this man in 1928 or 1929 and would have been a teenager, which leads me to believe that my grandfather likely never knew about this. And it seems the female was married and may not have known herself that it wasn't from her husband. I could see my grandfather in the old man's photo. Oh, wow. So you actually, so one of the photos that you saw with the 94-year-old guy, so your half uncle, your grandfather's there. So technically a photo of your half uncle with his father. Interesting. I hesitate to push ahead with this, maybe waiting for the old man to pass and my aunt, who is 86. It could be upsetting for them to learn this so late in their lives. I want to do the right thing, but it's on my mind 24/7. How do you not go crazy when matches don't respond? Well, it's a little difficult. Let's see what some people say down here. It seems that you've solved the mystery. Good work. I doubt you'd get any more information from your newfound cousin than you already know. You've given them plenty to think over. You just have to be patient. You have to be okay with knowing you may never get a response. Great sleuth work. Be patient. They might be shook over the MPE. Some DNA testers are just looking for ethnicity and then they're done. And my known did not mean to do that. My known second cousin, once removed, took a year and a half to notice my message. So yeah, pretty much agree with both of them. You know, you just have to be patient. There's the possibility they may never respond. You know, I have been someone who's taken it a bit further sometimes, especially with my idea of, you know, well, one, maybe they just aren't logging in. I don't remember if MyHeritage, if you can go and see when someone last logged in, but on Ancestry, yeah, you just said matches on MyHeritage. But, you know, if you find them on Ancestry, you can go and look at the profile and it gives you an idea, you know, has it been a while since they've logged in? So, you know, if you found them on Facebook, one thing you could consider, but you have to also understand it could be pushing the boundaries a bit too much, is possibly reaching out to other family members. You know, you mentioned this DNA match has a brother, so another first half cousin of yours. So, you know, would it be worthwhile to just reach out to the brother? And, you know, I've done that in the past. And when I do that, what I'll say is, you know, hello, I was a DNA match to this person. I sent them a few messages and they never responded. I wasn't sure if they just didn't log in. I found them on, you know, I found you all on Facebook and I thought I'd try to reach out here. That's another option too, is just, you know, if you have the DNA match on Facebook, you could also reach out to them. But like I said, you know, consider that it could push some people too far. You know, I've been someone who in my work, when I'm contacting my own relatives, my own family, I'm a little bit more forward than some people would be. So like, you know, if I do find a match that isn't responding on the preferred, you know, the platform we're matching on, and I find them elsewhere, I'll send them a message and I'll just kind of say, you know, hey, I saw that you're a match of mine on this and I was hoping to connect, and it, you know, I couldn't tell if you hadn't logged in or not. And so I thought I'd reach out here just in case you hadn't. But obviously if you have a way to tell that, okay, they probably read my message, then it's probably not a good idea to do that. But just keep in mind that, you know, it is probably not going to be something that everyone is going to be cool about if you do that. But it is one way, because sometimes you may have family that are super into it and they just don't see the message. But if you want to play it the safest, and especially, rustle the least amount of feathers, you've already sent 3 messages. Presuming that they have logged in and seen them, it is just a matter of being patient. Now, one thing I do want to say is that you didn't indicate anything to show that you didn't show anything to show that it was a super confident, yes, this is a, half uncle, because the main thing would be seeing the centimorgans and how that person's also matching your relatives. Now, you mentioned that you've done the research and all that, so I'm assuming that you've probably reached that point. But just for argument's sake, in case maybe you haven't, pulling up our shared centimorgan project, when we look at a half first cousin, which I think that's how they were coming out to, half first cousin. So when we look at a half first cousin, we're looking at someone who on average is sharing 449 centimorgans of DNA. So for those who don't know, a centimorgan is just a measurement of DNA. And so we use that to help decipher how close someone might be related to us. And with a half first cousin, we're getting this sort of a range. So when we look at that, we also want to see what other possibilities are there with that sort of a similar range. So we have 449 here, so that could be a half first cousin, but then it also could be a first cousin once removed. It also could be a first cousin once removed up here, but it could also be a great great aunt or uncle. And then it also could be a half great aunt or uncle. So you're looking at a few variations of the possibility, but that's just focusing on the average. So depending on how much you actually share with this person, that could change things. So let's say that maybe you actually share 550 centimorgans with this person, which, that puts first cousin half first cousin in the strong range, but you still have a lot of other possibilities. But even so, with a half first cousin, 600 is pretty fair within the main amount of cases. So it could get higher or could get lower. And when it gets lower, that gets even more interesting, because then it really opens up the possibility, because now we've got half first cousin isn't our strongest. Although I'm guessing part of why I'm saying that is that when I see people kind of come to conclusions where it says, and there was a half first cousin, that makes me question, are you going and analyzing it and being like, yes, that's a half first cousin? Or is that what MyHeritage said? We're guessing this is what they are. Because sometimes MyHeritage just says, this is what we're guessing what they are, and people kind of just say that's it. So I'm not negating that, you may have actually solved it, but based on the information that you've given us, it is just one small question of mine of, is it truly a half first cousin? Like, are you like that confident that you've double checked all your stuff? Or was it something that you just kind of saw that was one of the main options and was like, okay, that's probably what it's going to be? But obviously, if it is on the lower end, 300, we have a lot more options that are very possible. I mean, now we're looking at second cousins once removed. Although, like I said, it's a very good idea when you do see these where it's, okay, it's kind of on the end of the range. Look at the histogram and see, well, how likely truly is it? Because if we see, it's falling in the range sort of, but at the edge of 0.6% of all cases. So very unlikely second cousin once removed, but just something I wanted to mention, because something to consider based on what they said. So I'm kind of saying that in the assumption that they're just going off of what they've said here, and there really wasn't much else that they've done with it. But they say, I checked matches that we shared and saw they came through my mother's father. This is on MyHeritage. So when they look at shared matches, you can see how much is your match matching your shared match. So they should be able to see how much their known relatives of their grandfather are matching this person. And then putting that into a what are the odds plot map, you can then figure out, okay, what is the most likely scenario. And it's very possible this person has already done all of that. But they didn't mention it here, so we don't know. So, all right. We're going to mark that one as reviewed. This question was reviewed during the professional Genie March 12th, 2024. Okay. Oh.